And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. You know, I think punk rock is the one genre I haven't ventured into with my with the band doing bits for the show. Maybe I'll need to go down that angle. Christian, what do you think?
I like it. I think it's a good genre to come back for bump music. You know.
Yeah, it's good. Busy day on the show today. No Ben. Once again, he is off, and he is enjoying himself. We hope. Or are you the type of person, which I usually am, that it's just raining on him the whole time? And he's having a terrible vacation.
Well, he did mention that this is like his last vacay before the Jazz season. So maybe for that aspect, we hope it's enjoyable.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
But that time, like when he was gone during the Retzlaff stuff, yeah, we hope you're miserable.
Yeah, right. Yes, I agree. Has the new poll come out yet?
Not quite.
Have we seen it drop? I'm updating the Snap Talk to see if that's come out. We'll keep an eye on that. Christian will get us some breaking news when the poll's coming out. I was just talking about. Well, first of all, how are you, Christian? You doing all right?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Is the wife on the night shift?
Day shift.
Day shift. Well, that's better, right?
In some aspects.
How does she handle working nights?
So it's pretty rough. I mean, it's like the days that she's working, you know, she'll sleep, go to work, come back home, and it's like, don't talk to me. Like, leave me alone.
Which is understandable.
And I totally get it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you do your thing. Yeah.
I'll be fine. I'll be in a different place for a while.
Yeah.
I think I've told you my neighbor Glenn is a doctor, and he does all his shifts overnight, and he loves it. But I also think he is like a robot. Because he comes home and then goes and plays soccer with his kids. Like I don't know if or when he sleeps ever. So he might just be the exception to the rule. You know what I mean? But I have known people who've liked overnight shifts in the past. You never know. Are you expecting both teams, Christian? And we can throw this out there if you want to snap talk us or call in, do the call in feature on the app. I'm expecting both teams to be in the top 25, considering where they were with the first poll, with votes received, and all of that. I would guess. I mean, Utah certainly I think should be in. You know, dominating a Big Ten team in week one compared to most other teams' week one, opponents, I think they should be in the way they did it and how they looked and the potential the team has. I think they should be easily in. It'll be curious to see if they leapfrog teams.
Well, they were the first two out.
Right.
Boise State was number 25, and Boise State lost.
So they're going to be out.
So they should be out.
Kansas State's going to be out. And I'm trying to think. I'm looking over the last week's ratings. David, when we were talking about this, mentioned another team. Anyway, another team might drop or should be out. Alabama at 8. I'll be curious to see how far they fall.
And Texas? You think Texas will fall out of the top 5?
Yeah, I do think Texas will fall out of the top. Maybe they won't. Texas is getting a lot of benefit of the doubt for some reason. I think the Arch Manning hype is a real thing, unfortunately. Like getting credit for somebody that has only, he play one game last year?
I think he made 2 or 3 starts, but they weren't against quality opponents, quote unquote, quality
Good
opponents,
teams.
right?
Right. So, I don't know. Texas seemed to me like, they were getting a lot of benefit of the doubt for some reason. And I get it. I guess they were a playoff team, and there is all this hype around Arch, but I don't know. Texas will fall, but do they fall out of the top 5? How far does Clemson fall? Because they had a loss, but they lost to LSU, which is not a terrible loss, obviously. So at number 9. But I would think that both BYU and Utah will sneak into the poll this week. And Utah for sure. And they deserve it. They showed well.
And even though it was only Portland State, I mean, number one, 69 points is an absurd amount, right? But then on the other hand, you shut them out. You allowed 0. So I would be pretty shocked if BYU also didn't make the top 25.
Right. So we'll get that to you as soon as it comes out, which was supposed to be at 10. Why are they late, Christian? What's up? Call up the AP. Say what's the deal? Just get AP on the phone. So we will get to that. We're going to talk a lot of college football on the show today. Our dear friend Scott Gerard, Scotty G, is going to join us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. I want to talk to him about Utah State. We didn't hit on a ton of Utah State yesterday, and it is absolutely worthy of conversation. Utah and the Bear dominated the conversation a little bit yesterday, but Utah State getting off to a good start against UTEP is absolutely relevant. And I mean, the story of Bronco at Utah State is it's a good story. It might be the perfect relationship between school and coach, at least for the moment, because what he does is going to work in Logan really, really well. And really, Logan is the type of program that Bronco is looking for. Bronco famously used to say that he wants to coach an academy. Bronco's not necessarily looking for built-in advantages. It's not his deal. He could have taken other, I guess P5 at the time jobs, but he took UVA, which is that's a really weird job to take. And it was actually similar, and this stuff becomes more relevant in hindsight, but it was actually pretty similar to BYU, and what worked at BYU worked very well at UVA. But it's not like he took a big SEC job or a Big Ten job. He took a job in the ACC at an academic school that doesn't really care, certainly about football. And he made them, that was the best UVA's been in, decades, honestly. And it wasn't necessarily an easy job. Utah State, and I know Aggie fans get grumpy with me, but it's not an easy job. It's just not. You're the third kind of in the pecking order of universities in a small state that absolutely can punch above its weight, and we've seen them punch above their weight. But it's not a school with a ton of built-in advantages. It's just not. But that stuff doesn't really matter to Bronco. It's not a surprise to me that he had a good season at New Mexico where nobody should be able to win ever, because it's not about that necessarily for Bronco. And I was listening this morning to Brian Keel with DJ and PK, and Brian is so good. He's always been a good interview going back to when he was a player. You want to hear a funny story about Brian Keel when he was playing? And I hope I get this right. The week before the BYU-Utah game, Brian went to the Utah game, and I can't remember why he was available. If Utah was playing it, maybe Utah was playing on a Thursday. I'd have to go back and look into the details on why they weren't playing on the same day. But he went to the Utah game and wore a BYU jersey, which is so funny. He's a really good dude. He was an incredible player, but he played for Bronco, and he had a line, and DJ and PK kind of highlighted this too, but it was a great line. He said, Bronco is not for everybody, but if he's for you, you're really gonna love him. And I thought that was probably really, at least from an outsider's perspective, a really good point of view on kind of the way that I view Bronco and the way that he coaches. Meaning that he's going to ask a lot from you, probably more than you've ever been asked of in your whole life, right? And he's a disciplined guy, and he doesn't get overly enticed by, God, what's the best way to put this? Top-end talent. He doesn't care about that. His priorities are in other places, and if you're not the right fit for Bronco or whatever, he has no problem not recruiting you or whatever, which is something that I bet he learned while at BYU because the off the field standards were so high. You know what I mean? Like you could recruit the all-star tailback in Las Vegas and go the Gary Croton route and say, oh, it's not that big a deal and it's not the honor code and all that stuff. But that was not the direction he was given when he got the head job at BYU. Don't hide from the honor code. Don't hide from the standard. And Bronco even said, we're using it to our advantage. And I'm sure he had not expressed interest in a lot of talented players, but it worked for him at BYU, and he got the most out of his players at BYU. And he had that walk-on program where he took pride on these walk-on players that would end up being, big-time contributors, like my guy Ben Criddle, who was a walk-on and then turned into a starter on one of Broncos, if not Broncos' best defense, one of them. So Bronco, he's just he'll be really good for Utah State. And what's amazing is that in the drama that has been the Utah State Athletic Department, they've managed, for the most part, to really hire good. And I say for the most part, because the Blake Anderson thing ended with drama. But he had success at one point at Utah State. Certainly in the basketball program, they managed to hire a bunch of good coaches. And Bronco, say what you will about Diana Sabo, Bronco, she hired Bronco. That is a home run hire. And from somebody, Diana, who's an outsider who didn't necessarily, wasn't necessarily familiar with Bronco or how he did things. That's a home run. I know he just left New Mexico after a year and they're super grumpy about it, but I could see him staying at Utah State for a while. It fits into his lifestyle. It's close to his family. And you can win at Utah State. He can win at Utah State.
It wouldn't make sense to leave New Mexico for Utah State. Like, that is a very, very specific scenario that wouldn't make sense to happen if he didn't plan on staying in Logan, at least for a few years.
I would think.
You would think.
I think Utah State's a better job than New Mexico, but I see what you're alluding to.
But it's not like he left New Mexico for
Auburn
P4 school,
yeah. Right?
He left for another Mountain West school, and he has ties to the state already. Like, it is a very specific scenario, and it wouldn't make sense for that to be a short-term thing.
And you know what? That is a recipe for success around here and in Logan in particular. Remember, Stu Morrill coached in Logan forever. You know why? Because he really loved living in Logan, and he really loved coaching at Utah State. We've seen it at Utah a couple of times. Certainly with Kyle Whittingham, that's an excellent example. He loves living here. He loves the family, the connections, the university, I'm sure. He loves how it works, so he's going to stay because he's well-adjusted and can appreciate the situation. Rick Majerus was in the same boat too, although he's kind of a more eclectic example. But you know what? His coaching style probably wouldn't have worked at a big-time basketball school at the time. Probably not. But I'm sure he really liked living in the hotel, and I'm sure he really liked being the most powerful man on campus and being able to park his car on the sidewalk and all those hilarious things that that Rick Majerus is known for doing. But he liked his lifestyle here, and so he stayed for a long time. Kalani, it's crazy to think how long Kalani's been at BYU, but that is the secret sauce, in my opinion, to punching above our weight from a state standpoint in sports and in college athletics. It's a really great place to live. The Wasatch Front, and then I know, going up to Logan, but Christian, you're from Brigham City. You grew up there. It's a great place to live. It's a great community. People come here. They want to stay here. There's more of a reason to be here than just the job, and people figure that out. I told you a story off the air yesterday about Kevin Graham, who I used to work for and work with, who was my roommate for a short period of time. But do you know that Kevin has come back here to work 3 times, 3 different stints in Salt Lake, And Kevin's been a program director in New York and Boston and Dallas and San Francisco and Pittsburgh and Detroit. And there's only one spot that he keeps coming back to because it's a great place to live and it's a great place to be. And so if you're telling me the Bronco, as long as, he backs it up with some success on the field, can make a long run at Utah State, yeah, I think that's what Utah State needs to do. Basketball and football, they need stability. And in the athletic department and the leadership at the university, they need stability for a little while. If you look back at the last 10 years in Logan, it has been bananas, absolute bananas. From the issues off the field with the Matt Wells program to coaching changes to athletic departments. When athletic directors, when Gary Anderson got hired the second time, that was super controversial in-house, like super controversial. There were loud voices. There were winners and losers in that battle, and that turned into to a complete disaster. And this is somebody who's a big fan of Gary Anderson, personally and professionally. Love Gary. But it was a disaster by the end. The team boycotted a game. And I know that year, that I think it was 2020, I know that whole situation was just bananas. But, I mean, wild. They keep losing their coach, basketball coach, every single year because they're too good. I mean, it's been crazy what's been going on in Logan. It's amazing that the football and basketball program have been as good as they have. But they need to find a solution at athletic director that is going to come in and bring some stability. And I think Bronco will bring that to the football program. I do. And Calhoun signing an extension, and hopefully we're going to see him and Logan for a little while. I think a little stability will be good there. Although you could argue that the instability has actually been great for the basketball program. Winning conference titles, going to the NCAA tournament. You could make a real argument. It's been a good thing for the Aggies. Winning a game in the NCAA tournament. That hadn't happened since, I'd have to look, early 2000s?
It was early 2000s, yeah.
So, it's interesting up there in Logan.
It's a very, very unique situation right now because it's not, a well-known community, right? But they have enjoyed recent success in football and basketball. So when you talk about, is it a good job or not? Like, a lot of things point to no, a lot of things point to yeah. And it's you've got the two main coaches in place, and as far as Bronco and Calhoun, right? And that should be attractive to an athletic director, but it's just a crazy situation.
When I first got into the business, there was a controversy involving Utah State gymnastics. You want to know what the controversy was? They had a coach there that was encouraging the gymnasts to smoke.
Like an appetite suppressant or what?
Yeah. Appetite suppressant. Keep the weight down. I don't know if the coach, and I can't even remember if it was a he or a she, but was just handing out Pall Malls in the locker room or what. But yeah, that was
our scores are looking great except for the floor routine.
It seemed to be running out of gas.
Our girls are running out of gas.
So yeah, Logan has always been a controversial place. But Scotty G is going to join us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour, so we'll talk to Scotty about some of this stuff. But of course, Scotty being the multi-talented radio host that he is, we'll get him to weigh in on some Utah and BYU football as well. So stay tuned. That's what's on tap. Our buddy Mickey Mental, head coach at Weber State, is going to jump on with us at 11:30. Excuse me. It is the Jake and Ben Show. We'll have more for you straight ahead. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the Top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5. Oh, I'm shocked. Join Hanson Scotty coming up tomorrow for the Cougar Preview Show, brought to you by Beehive Meals. Scotty G is going to be on the show at the top of the 11 o'clock hour, so make sure and stay tuned for that. But right now, it's time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, we got to start here, Jake. Bill Belichick, absolute disappointment in his Tar Heels debut.
The adult novelty heiress took a loss.
You think she was calling offense or defense?
Oh, Jordan was probably calling. She seems more like an offense kind of gal, no?
She took offense while Bill took defense?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like had 2 boyfriends in her life, and they're both like multimillionaires. That gal's on offense, let me tell you. Yeah, it didn't go well for the Tar Heels. They lose to TCU, slung it all over them, old Sonny Dykes, 48-14. And I did think it was funny. I happened to be on the Snap Talk when the Tar Heels scored first. And everybody was just being like, "Oh, genius Bill." And he stood there with a stone-faced look, all this people taking victory laps. I'm sure our guest yesterday was pleased, as he did not like my joke about Bill Belichick's girlfriend. He did not care for it one bit. But it's almost like a similar conversation to Texas in a way. But why would we expect Bill Belichick to be good automatically at coaching college football? Why would we just automatically expect that? Because he was good at coaching pro football. But here's what people don't appreciate, is that pro football and college football are way different. Not just like style of play different, but what makes a football team successful different. It's a completely different job. The X's and O's is just a small part of what particularly a college football coach does to be successful. It's like it's a totally different thing. Christian, it'd be like assuming that since you're a good producer and and you run a good board, that you could also fix the tower because, well, it's radio and they're kind of connected, right? I mean, it's still like maybe it's not quite as drastic as that, but kind of. It's just a completely different thing. And Jim Harbaugh is the exception. He is not the rule. If you look at history, look at most of the examples are college coaches going to pros, right? Rarely have we seen many pro coaches go to college. I guess we could probably find a couple of examples, but it just doesn't go well.
Nick Saban, infamously. He sucked with Miami.
Sucked with Miami. Now, do you think that Nick Saban forgot how to coach football when he was coaching for the Dolphins?
Or do you think he got magically much better after he left the Dolphins? Maybe he got a little better, but not like
he was
that.
Great at LSU before he went to the Dolphins. He got the Dolphins job. He won a national title at LSU. He was great at Michigan State before that. Terrible with the Dolphins. And you know what? He was self-aware enough to realize that he was terrible with the Dolphins too, and he got out of town quick because it wasn't going to work because it's not the same. It's just not the same gig. I remember I was doing a show with Gordon at the time when Urban Meyer got hired to be the Jaguars coach. And it's like, this is going to be a disaster because what made him a good college coach doesn't work in the pros. Urban specifically, his act just doesn't play when you're not around young people that you can get away with treating that way. And it was a disaster in the pros. And I don't know, it'd be interesting. We should do some research on what Jim Harbaugh does that is applicable to both college and pro, because he has had success, really great success at both levels. But remember that Jim Harbaugh was also a great college coach who had to start from scratch at San Diego and then ended up at Stanford and then obviously the Niners and then back Michigan and now with the Chargers. But he's the exception. He is not the rule. And I would argue he's a college coach who succeeds at the pros, not a pro coach who succeeds in college. I mean, would Jerry Sloan have been a great college coach? I don't know, frankly. You know, Jerry Sloan was all about personal accountability. It was like his big message. It was like his ethos. Like, you show up to work, you come here ready to work. Personal accountability was like his big thing. That's not like, that's not how it works in college. That's not how people like Urban Meyer won anyway.
There's also such a big generational gap between Bill, who was in the pros forever, and then not only did he take a year off of coaching, but then he went backwards and is now coaching even younger people. And obviously the jokes are made about his girlfriend being that age, right? So maybe he has some sort of connection, but I still have a hard time believing that Bill Belichick would know how to get the most out of a 20-year-old right away, having never done it before.
And you know what's funny about the joke I made yesterday is this situation in particular, the only people that don't get the joke, because this is a joke, and the only people who don't get the joke are North Carolina fans and their administration. Because Bill Belichick's life is obviously in complete chaos. He didn't even live in Chapel Hill during the offseason, Christian. He was living on Nantucket. And his wife is having all this, or his girlfriend's having all this drama with his wife on the Nantucket social scene. His life is complete chaos. And hey, nothing against people with a chaotic life, but you know, your life's chaotic and full of distractions. You take a job that you think is beneath you, so you basically can line up a head coaching job for your son. How much effort is he really putting into it? I have no idea. Is he sitting on the beach in Nantucket running his college football program? They changed over 70 players in the offseason. Like this was never going to go well. Not off the bat anyway. Never going to go well. And North Carolina's paying him what, like $10 million for the pleasure? It is. It's a joke. It's a total joke. And they got hammered by TCU. And I don't know, what do you read into TCU? Do you think Sonny's really got a squad, or do you think North Carolina is a joke?
I'm pretty impressed with the win. I don't know if I'm ready to say that TCU is like one of the top dogs in the Big 12, but the rest of the Big 12 outside of really Utah and BYU didn't look that impressive. So, I mean, they could be. I think it might say more about UNC though.
And Bill Belichick takes a job at a school where football will never be a priority. And you know what? The basketball program sucks out loud right now too, but it was never a situation that I thought would lend itself to being successful, no matter what a genius Bill Belichick is or was or whatever. It doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a great college football coach. It just doesn't. All right, what's next?
Number 2, Coach Ron McBride is going to be honored and inducted into Utah's Ring of Honor this Saturday against Cal Poly.
I would say a bit overdue. I would argue Ronnie Mack should have been should have been the first. I mean, just my opinion. I'm a little biased because I love Ronnie Mack. Working with him after he retired from Weber State, as he's had a role on the station basically ever since, and I've had a chance to host many shows with Coach Mack. And what a dude! What a great person! I mean. If Ring of Honor is supposed to represent something, it represents what Coach Mack has. And he had a vision for Utah's football program when he took it over. And if you talk to people that worked with Mack at the time about, you know, his vision and how he sold himself to get the Utah job in the first place, was nothing short of genius. And he saw that Utah was a program that could be way better than it was showing. He saw some of the things that were happening at BYU and thought, well, I could deal with missionaries. And sure, I'd love to go on recruiting trips to Hawaii. Absolutely. But he saw it all. And basically what you're seeing playing out 20, 30 years from when he got the job later is exactly what he envisioned it to be. And I know it took a 2-year hiatus with Urban Meyer, but Urban saw a place that he could win big immediately because the players were there and the program was in a good place. And he did, and he left. And Chris Hill, in The Good Doctor, in all of his wisdom, went back to essentially Ronnie Mack. I mean, he went back to Mack's guy in Kyle Whittingham, and then, you know, give Kyle, of course, the credit that he was due, but you know, he's doing a lot. He's doing with that program what Mack envisioned back in God, what year did he get the job? 1990. So, yeah, I think while Coach Mack is still with us to be honored, I think that this is amazing, and I'm sure that Ute fans will provide Coach Mack with a pretty special environment coming up this weekend. So deserved, love that guy. So great to have him around the community at large, not just the sports community, but the Ronnie Mack Foundation does incredible things with the youth of this state. He is an absolute gem, and he is deserved of every honor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing to remember, too, is he is still very involved with the community, and you hear about it every time he comes on with Hans and Scotty. I know he does the Football Fridays during the season with them, but then he comes on throughout the spring and summer as well a couple times, and he's came on and talked a lot about his foundation, and it is very impressive to see somebody that involved who's already done so much for the sports community, but then to do a lot for just this area, the Salt Lake City area as a whole. Like, it means something to him.
Well, have I told you this? Yeah, I probably haven't told you this story, but because it's happened a bunch of times, but he's my humble brag on the phone. Because I'll just pick up the phone wherever I am if Coach Mack calls me. I mean, it's just Coach Mack calls me. But I make sure to announce it to every person that's around. Oh, hello, Coach Mack. So nice to talk to you. Yeah, that's right. I know this guy.
And he called me.
He called me. Coach Mack called me. Anyway, good for Coach Mack. Congratulations to him. One of the best. All right, what's next?
Number 3, still awaiting the AP Top 25. I don't know if it got lost in transit or what, but do you think Ohio State is going to take the number 1 spot?
I want to know what's up with David Fake News James, who told me all morning that the Top 25 was coming out at 10 o'clock. In fact, he made a reference on his show. He's like, Jake and Ben will be breaking it down at 10. Apparently not, David. Has not come out yet. Do I expect Ohio State to go to number 1? Yeah, probably. I mean, shouldn't they? They were at 3, 2 in the coaches poll. But, you knock off a good opponent week 1. And I don't think Texas is terrible. I don't think they were the top-ranked team in the country. The problem is Ohio State didn't look great doing it, right? I mean, what'd you think of the Buckeyes week 1?
Yeah, holding Texas to 7 points is great. I know their quarterback is relatively inexperienced, so I wasn't expecting a lot from him. But I will say the first half of that game was absolutely dreadful. And I don't know how much influence that has on votes, but for all the hype, I think both teams disappointed.
Going back to the Jim Tressel era, how often does Ohio State's offense look clunky? Never, right? Never. I mean, through the urban years, the offense has been a calling card for Ohio State. Not like they're some air raid program, and they've had some great defenses too. But, I mean, the fact that Ohio State's offense looks clunky, I don't know, Christian. You still have to score points.
I have seen a lot of people that voted on the AP poll releasing their ballots on social media, and I've seen a few. Our guy Shihan Jayaraja, he's been on the show. He joins the station pretty frequently. He joins DJ and PK every Monday. He had Utah at 12, and I don't think I saw BYU in his poll.
He had Utah as high as 12. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they had an impressive win. There's no doubt. It'll be interesting to see if Deshaun Foster keeps his job. Because I don't know. I don't know if UCLA is going to win the Big Ten, Christian. I don't know.
What do you think about that quote? That I know DJ and PK spent a lot of time talking about it this morning, saying that they were close. He said after watching the game, and I'm paraphrasing here, he went back and watched the game, and he felt better after rewatching it. He said they were close.
I think that's a man who is lying, frankly. And who okay, let me ask you this, Christian. The way that Deshaun Foster has behaved with the media, and I know we've talked about it a number of times on the show, but Utah was getting ready for UCLA, but I mean he's been very petty with the media and obviously very sensitive very sensitive to the message that surrounds he and his football program. Does that sound like somebody that would lean into accountability to you?
Probably not.
Does that sound like somebody who would take an introspective look and say, like, wow, we really got beat up, and so we need to reevaluate some things because I think we're a better team than that? It doesn't. Somebody that is that sensitive to criticism doesn't sound to me like somebody who's going to be all that into accountability. Sounds to like somebody that's going to lie to himself and everybody around him.
Well, and they're already struggling to stay relevant, right? So how do you can't come out and say, yeah, we got our butts kicked, because that's going to turn people away even more.
They gave up a drive that lasted 10 minutes. On the way to losing by, what did the final end up being?
43-10. So 33 points.
On the way to losing by 33 points. I mean, let's say that Utah actually had 3 possessions in that 10 minutes and they scored on all 3. They could have blown them out by even more. They actually kind of did them a favor by doing that. But that's ragdolling a team. I mean, that's just dominating a team. And speaking of David James, the way I heard him put it this morning, getting blown off the ball by 6 yards every play, you're not. That's not close. That's not close. Not close at all. But I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to admit that to himself or anybody else. And he'd come away saying like, oh, we were close. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You got smoked. What level are you playing at? You know, are you playing for Big Ten titles? Like if you're...
Yeah, close to what?
Yeah, close to what? Yeah.
Close to competing? Because you weren't close to winning. You were almost competitive.
They weren't close in any way, shape, or form.
Nico had 50% completion percentage. That's horrible.
Horrible. And so I guess if you really want to get into the macro and pick apart a dropped ball or something like that and say, well, if the receiver would have caught it here and then they would have scored a touchdown, that would have totally changed the momentum. And then all of a sudden Nico's going for 350. Like, what are you talking about? We're close. That's hilarious. But yeah, I know. I think I think that's somebody not being honest. That's my explanation. All right, stay tuned. More next. Jake and Ben. Don't forget Scotty G coming up at 11 o'clock and Coach Mental at 11:30, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Let's go!
Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Cougars get set for a home showdown with Stanford this Saturday. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You can win big every Wednesday on the station. With Win Ticket Wednesday. Coming up tomorrow, you'll be able to win tickets to the Utah State Fair September 4th through the 14th, where you can find the Big Yellow Slide, the best corn dog in the world, a butter sculpture, arts and crafts, a rodeo, a demolition derby, and a legendary rock band, just to name a few. Nowhere but the fair, that's where. So tune in to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. 2 quick NFL stories. One that I loved and one that made me angry, Christian, and then we'll get to Scotty G at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Which do you want to start with, the one that I loved or the one that made me angry?
Yeah, what did you like?
Hunter Renfrow was he just signed with the Panthers. The receiver used to be with the Raiders, and he did an interview yesterday, and he said that he missed. What did he say? He said he missed like 10 calls. He missed the call from the Panthers when they were telling him he was going to be signed by the Panthers GM, by his agent, by everybody. He missed like 10 calls. And you know what the reason was?
Tell me he was taking a nap.
No. His kid was watching Bluey on his phone. And this has happened to me. His kid it kept hitting ignore because the phone calls popped up on the screen, you know? And so his kid kept hitting ignore because it was interrupting the episode of Bluey.
That's awesome. That's a good story for Renfrow. He had to retire he was on the Raiders, like you said, for a bit because of injuries. He signed with Carolina in the offseason, spent the preseason with them, and then they cut him, and now they're signing him back to their practice squad. So that's good to see him latching on there. He's a good feel-good story. But that's funny. The Bluey thing is hilarious because I'm sure you and a lot of parents out there can relate to that.
Yeah, my 4-year-old has definitely ducked a call. Not necessarily watching Bluey. I can't remember what she was watching, but that has happened. So that was really hilarious. Love that story. And then this is the one that really made me angry. Johnny Manziel, for some reason, is doing the round in podcasts. I don't know. He was on with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco. And he said that he hates Cleveland and hopes the Browns go 0-16 every season. Johnny. And hey, you're talking to somebody who loves bitterness, right? I'm into it. Johnny Football has no one to blame for his failures other than Johnny Football. Yeah, Cleveland is an organization that's not run very well. That's not the reason you failed. That's not it. And in the same day, he did another podcast, Christian, where he admitted that he and Braylon Edwards would leave Cleveland after practice on Monday to go party in Miami. That's what we're talking about. That's why you failed. Cleveland was dumb for picking you because your game was never going to work in the NFL. You were too small, and you had a ton of personal baggage. The owner is the one who picked Johnny Manziel because you basically begged him to pick you. You should be thanking Cleveland. The only reason you had a big rookie contract is because Cleveland took a stupid risk and drafted you. For you to be bitter and say you root against them every game, dude, open your freaking eyes. Are you kidding?
So you're telling me the guy that flamed out and never lived up to his potential is pointing the finger at everybody else?
Yep. That's exactly what is happening here.
Shocker.
Unbelievable when I saw that. I root against Cleveland every game. Kyle, you should be giving a portion of the money that you made back to Cleveland for doing you a favor and picking you in the first round. You bozo. Are you kidding? Johnny Manziel failed because of the Browns. Absolutely not. Johnny Manziel failed because of Johnny Manziel. That's it. End of story. And I hated his Netflix documentary. I think I'm moving off of Netflix. I haven't liked a couple of documentaries that I've seen recently.
I just watched a documentary on Hurricane Katrina, not to get sidetracked.
Was it good?
On Netflix? Yeah, that was really good.
I watched the Malice in the Palace one and absolutely hated that. And then I watched the Johnny Manziel one. Absolutely hated that. And listen, if you're going to do like a rehab doc, which is what that was, if you're going to do a rehab doc about drugs and alcohol derailing your situation, don't be slugging beers in your interview where you're talking about it. What are you doing? You're a moron. Just from a basic PR standpoint, you're an idiot. Doing the whole doc being like, oh, my compulsive behavior really affected my ability to make it as a football player.
Sip.
Excuse me, I'm just going to crack another Bud Heavy here while I'm telling you about it. Good grief. Are you kidding? What a Bozo of the Week nominee right there.
Okay.
Whatever reason, for him rooting against Cleveland or for him leaving practice to go party in Miami every Monday. But can you imagine that in the same day? Yeah, I root against Cleveland every game, 0-16. Oh, yeah, we used to go and party. It's like maybe Cleveland would have been better if you would have focused on playing football as opposed to partying in Miami. You bozo? All right, Scotty G. Not bozo. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.